Welcome back to the Scarcity Podcast. This is your host, Mike, and my co-host, Scott. How are you doing today, buddy?
I'm doing fine. I'm a little bright.
You're a little bright. You got your Fangoria t-shirt?
Yes, I got my little guy holding my hat.
Yeah, you finally got your... well, not finally. I'm not subscribed to Fangoria, but you're subscribed to Fangoria now, which is pretty cool.
4 issues a year.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that sounds like not a lot, but like they're pretty thick.
They're 100 pages per issue.
Yeah, they're pretty thick, so...
I got issue 13. I might try to backtrack and get the first 12 issues that came out of the second volume. That way I can have all of volume 2. That'd be kind of neat.
What was the most recent... What was the one that you got? Like, what was the topic?
Ooh, I wish I had it with me, but I'd have to go downstairs to get it. But it covers Last Night in Soho. It covers Halloween Kills. The horror-themed drag race. I think it's on Shudder.
Oh, Dracula, yeah.
Yeah, so they have a lot of that stuff on there. It's pretty cool. I read the interviews from Last Night in Soho because I really love that movie. And
yeah, you caught that. You caught that finally. I haven't seen it yet.
yeah, it's my favorite film of the year. I really wouldn't stake it as being much like a traditional like horror movie. It's a psychological horror, but like very different atmosphere. I feel like than most horror films. If you went into it saying, "Oh, this is a horror film, I want to go see it," I feel like that's a really bad mentality to have. Because I don't love it because it's a horror film. I love it just because the director's just fucking class and doesn't do bad work.
Yeah, true. Never seen a bad Edgar Wright movie. So
no, I haven't.
I don't think I've ever seen one lower than a 8.
I haven't seen all of his films, but from what I've seen, I'm definitely getting to a point where I'd say he might be one of my favorite directors working.
I haven't seen three of people's favorites of his. I haven't seen any of the Cornetto trilogy, so I'm...
You haven't seen any of them?
I haven't seen Shaun of the Dead, haven't seen Hot Fuzz, and definitely haven't seen World's End, so...
World's End is the only one I haven't personally seen.
I want to watch Shaun of the Dead and Hot Fuzz and all that stuff. Like, I want to watch them, I just haven't seen them yet.
Yeah.
Especially Shaun of the Dead.
Shaun of the Dead is very different. I love it, but it's definitely got that air of, like, it's bigger than what you'd assume it would be. Like, it's supposed to be like a horror comedy, mostly comedy, but people talk about it so much now, you kind of go in there with this like false connotation that it's going to be like this masterpiece because it's so talked about. That kind of hurts it a bit.
Well, it's one of those movies that's been absorbed into pop culture to the point that people are like, yeah, this movie's like Shaun of the Dead, or, you know, this aspect of this horror comedy it's just like Shaun of the Dead, or like it took inspiration from Shaun of the Dead.
Yeah,
that's one of those movies now.
I mean, we've kind of talked about that. Just any time films get thrown around with like this really bombastic verbiage, it kind of makes it just seem like you're less interested in it at a point. Like if I go around and I hear like, "Hey, this film that came out in the past 3 years, it's a masterpiece." It's like, you want to sit on that? Like, you want to think about that for a second? Like, you're telling me that's a masterpiece right now? Not that there aren't films that came in the last 3 years that aren't masterpieces. Like, there's a ton of fantastic directors making fantastic films, but it's just like, it's tough to throw a term out like that now, and it's so nonchalant anymore.
It's one of the most overused words, the same way as like the exact opposite is overused. Like this movie's a complete and utter disaster or whatever.
Yeah. You know? It's always extreme verbiage. It's always it's amazing, best film ever made, or it's terrible. You should never see it.
Yeah,
which is something I also can never aspire to understand. Like, how could you tell someone they should never see a film? Like, they could never make up their own mind on it. Like, that's so, like... That's almost worse than calling something a masterpiece when you think about it.
Yeah, you're telling someone actively because you didn't like it that they shouldn't absorb art.
Yeah, like... I mean, bringing it to the Halloween franchise, like, that's all you get with Kills. It's either, like, best one in a long time or, like, dog shit. It's like...
Yeah.
I don't know, but I'm not feeling either of these feelings you guys are getting. Like, I think it's fun.
That kind of leads directly into the movie we're talking about today, Halloween 6, The Curse of Michael Myers, because it is still, to this day, the lowest rated Halloween movie. And, I mean, we watched the producer's cut this time around. We didn't watch the theatrical version.
I think the theatrical version deserves to probably be the lowest rated.
It is pretty bad. It's borderline incoherent. But I'll say this, man. This rewatch was kind to this movie for me. Very kind.
I had a really fun time going through it.
It's not perfect.
No.
I got problems with it, but
I think as the Halloween films go on later and later, one thing that's usually good, maybe not always good, but I feel they always hit a good job with is atmosphere.
yeah,
And 6 has a great atmosphere to it.
yeah, they bring it back. Well, it's once again in Salt Lake City, and you can tell it's really good looking, and you feel this sense of cold, and really it really feels like autumn, and that's just they scaled back down the Myers house, thank God.
Cinematography is very striking in it too. I feel like it's a lot more focused, and
Yeah.
I feel like the cinematographer really took time with his shots and set them up versus a lot of the shots that they're bad in 5 or anything. There are some good shots, but
Some of them are just aggressive.
they just feel very dated or like there's not a lot of focus on them.
Yeah, it feels like they're kind of just like, again, it's flying by the seat of their pants.
Yeah.
The way that even kind of the way that they're filming the movie.
Yeah.
But
I mean,
six,
it's stuff you'd see in a lot of horror films at the 80s, like
yeah,
it's just let's get this out, let's have a good time. End.
yeah. I think 6 has one of the most thick Halloweeny like atmospheres, and a lot of that has to do with not just the cinematography, but also just like the story itself lends itself more to Halloweeny kind of stuff because of the stuff that it's dealing with directly with druid cults and Samhain and all that stuff. So it feels intrinsically more Halloweeny, and I really like that about the movie, especially in the producer's cut.
Yeah, I think the Halloween atmosphere is really strong in this film. You're never asking yourself, what movie is this? You're never saying, like, oh, it doesn't feel like Halloween. It always feels like a Halloween movie.
Yeah.
And, as the film starts going, it's really hard to have a bad time with it, except for if you're not really into the cult thing, it could take you out of it very fast.
Yeah.
But when you're introduced to the new characters, you like them decently enough. They're fun. Even if they have like accentuations that are very 90s, they're still fun characters. Like,
Yeah.
I remember hating the brother a lot more, but when I watched it again, I'm like, no, he's pretty good. Like, there's
He's fine.
nothing wrong with him. I
like
mean,
him.
He's nice.
I do find that the some of the stuff with the brother would be pretty funny, especially when they're talking to Barry Sims and they're saying like, yeah,
He's
he-
when the 90s feeling really hits.
yes, because he's supposed to be Howard Stern, not Howard Stern. Yes, Howard Stern.
Like,
Supposed to be Howard Stern.
when we were talking about going through the films, I remember you saying, like, I think the 90s shit in H2O is going to bug you. It bugs me way more in 6 than it does H2O.
Well, yeah, when I rewatched H2O, I realized how little Kevin Williamson's touch really is on that movie.
It's more about...
Some of the dialogue is a bit more like
it's not
slick
the
90s.
dialogue, it's the script. The way he sets things up in the script, like, oh,
Yeah.
is Jamie gonna hide in a closet? No, you would think that because of the first movie. Like, that's very on the nose, metatextual, but that's the type of metatextual I can get behind, where it's not like, okay, now
Shoving
they're
it
gonna
in your
reference.
face.
Now, if she said not another fucking closet, I'd be like, I hate this movie. Like, that's the type of shit where I'd be like, I don't need a character who's talking to nobody addressing the situation for no reason.
Yeah.
But looking at a closet, being like, fuck, and then leading
Running
up
away.
to the, oh, you didn't see that coming, that's fine. H2O is
Yeah.
not bad. But Barry Sims in 6, he
He's
deserves
very
his
much-
fate.
He's very much that 90s
Overblown asshole
radio
character.
guy, which it's like it's not like they're not characters, people that existed, because they, Howard Stern has a career based off of shit like that.
Yeah. But the thing is, Howard Stern is funny, Mike.
Yeah, I know.
This guy's fucking annoying.
I know.
But no,
um,
I agree.
I do think it's really funny though that I don't know why I'm blanking on the brother's name right now, but where
I think it's
his
Tim.
Tim. Yep. His girlfriend turns to Barry Sims, is like, yeah, like Tim lives in the Myers house, and Barry Sims is like, you do? And he's like, I do.
Yeah, I love that. Tim's like, what the fuck? Like,
I do. What? Yeah. So some of it's really, really good. I like pretty much all the characters in this. The only one I'm not wild about Tommy, and I know like you and I have both talked about how
Tommy's
much,
fine. Tommy's a
especially you
plot
don't like
device.
Tommy. I'm not crazy
It's
about
just
him,
the acting,
but
like Paul Rudd is not there. Like
it,
it's
it's it's
so
it's
phoned in
weird.
and weird. Like it's
His performance is odd. I won't say it's bad. I like it just fine. It's there, but it is just kind of really weird. Maybe it's just because I know Paul Rudd nowadays. It's just watching him act like that is just so weird. Because he's like
yeah.
he's got zero charisma, and like that's fine. Like that the character's not calling for it. It's just like it is just odd to watch
It's
sometimes.
just the character's supposed to be like an awkward dude, and like
He's a traumatized person who
when
didn't acclimate very well.
when you know who Paul Rudd is, you'd expect a very different character, and
Yeah.
this character is just not what you'd expect. And
Yeah, I mean, like,
I don't
look,
hate this version of Paul Rudd. I wouldn't, not Paul Rudd, sorry. This version of Tommy Doyle. Uh, I still like it better than other Tommy Doyles, but I just don't like the character of Tommy Doyle.
well, there's only
Three.
yeah, yeah.
I don't like all of them.
Technically, there's four if
The
you count
remake?
the remake, but
Yeah.
he's only in the first one,
Yeah.
and he's just Tommy Doyle as a kid. But yeah, I mean, like, I don't think he's that bad. It is just kind of weird sometimes when you're thinking yourself in your mind's eye, like what you think of when you think of Paul Rudd, and then that's
Yeah.
not what you think of. Which maybe that's a good thing. Maybe it's cool that he can do something else.
Yeah.
But it is. I think the what does a lot for his character in the movie, not even just Paul Rudd, not even the writing for him, is the set dressing in his room.
Yeah.
You get a real sense of who this person is. I remember the first time I watched the movie in a long time, I saw that he has an NRA sticker
Oh.
and all of his gun related stickers and stuff like that, and it's just like he's wearing like a olive drab coat. I'm just like, is this? Yeah, he's definitely. I'm surprised that he doesn't have a gun. I'm actually really stunned he doesn't have a gun. But yeah, I remember just looking at a set and being like, wow, okay, like it is amazing kind of what set dressing can really do for you,
Yeah.
because it can be a level of visual storytelling that you don't think about nearly as much as you think about, the way that the camera treats characters or situations.
Well,
But
yeah, set dressing usually really helps, like, evaluate
people.
characters on a base level and just get you more in tune to who they are, what they like. Like, that's the reason
it's
we
a
love.
shorthand.
That's why we love kid characters and stuff like Monster Squad and the Goonies with
Yeah,
the stuff in their rooms just hanging around. Like, you could say, I'm like that kid. I like this too. And it just makes you feel more emotionally attached to this film because you're like, hey, I would love to be hanging out with these kids in this clubhouse having a good time.
yeah.
And, for a film like this, with setting up the atmosphere of just like this weird mystery where you don't know what's happening or what are these ruins, it really helps to understand who Tommy is and how much his life's been traumatized without him having to give you a big fucking like monologue about like, ever since my babysitting, life has never been the same. We can assume that, and it's very easy to assume, but
Yeah.
hearing it would be so useless.
Well, it goes back to showing, not telling, and
Exactly.
I think that's one thing that I really appreciate about this Tommy is that you're shown a lot more than you're told, and
Yeah.
I don't hate the one from Kills as much as you do, but
I just think it's funny. Like, I don't really hate Tommy.
it's MAGA Tommy. Yeah,
Yeah, it's MAGA Tommy. Like, I don't hate Tommy Doyle in that movie. Like, he services a point. He's well acted. It's just like, it's just so blunt.
yeah,
Or like,
literally.
he's just so blunt. Where like, I'd have a hard time saying as a character it's well done.
Yeah,
It's well performed, which is two different things. But I don't know.
It's such a vastly different take on the character.
The idea of Tommy Doyle is such a better idea because the first movie sets him up, and you could do whatever you want with that type of character. And we've had two renditions where he's just like an inept stalker type character, or then he's just like fucking MAGA Doyle, and it's like it's just none of these versions have ever solidified saying we should bring back Tommy Doyle to me.
Yeah.
At least with 6, his character services the plot and it makes sense. But
Yeah.
they're never well done enough where you could say, like, I'm glad Tommy's in this. And that's kind of the biggest problem with that character. At least with a character like Lindsay in Halloween Kills, like, she's shown to be, like, resourceful and like, her and fragile. but she's not overt. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
she's a character that seems like she can try her best to survive, but she's just another person. Whereas Tommy is, I know he's Magadoyle. He's just fucking
Well,
leading
he's
his march against Michael.
yeah. I was gonna say like he's in that movie. He is. I don't want to say the charismatic leader of the fucking riots and stuff, but like he is one of the ones who really helps to incite that violence. I mean, he's driving around to people on the street saying, "Hey, if you're ready and able, we need to go hunt down this fucker and kill him." So it's like
Yeah,
he's the spearhead of this. Like you
yeah,
think it'd be Lori who'd be the spearhead, but he is the spearhead because she's
and I
obviously
think it
injured
just
in the
comes
bed.
down to Tommy shouldn't be a main character. Is really what it is. Like, Tommy as a main character really doesn't service the plot as much as is necessary unless it's built to it with a previous film. In the first Halloween never builds him to be a main character. It does build trauma to be in his life, but unless you have another film kind of just like start to unravel this character or build him up, like maybe like if they talked about Tommy more in 2018, I'd be more okay with him being Magadoyle. But because he just goes
Shows
from
up.
not being in this film to being a main character in the next one, it's like I think we need a little bit more. You know,
Yeah.
I'm all for films being films, just one film telling its one standalone story. But if you are gonna make a trilogy, some things have to be built a little bit better, I'd say.
Yeah, I agree. I think the nice thing about six though is that while he is a main character, he shares a lot of spotlight with Kara
Yes.
and Loomis and all that stuff, and they all inform each other and work together rather than it like Tommy being the spearhead who's leading the movie.
It's not a
Kara's more the lead than he is.
He's not he's not driving a side plot either, which helps.
Yeah.
They're directly linked together. So
Yes.
that's why I always like this Tommy better in the narrative, because it fits a singular story where things aren't unraveled, where we're dealing with A and B, there's something over here in C, and Tommy's covering plot D, and then together it makes one big jump together to just with plot A. But with
Yeah.
6, it's just we have plot A and plot B. They meet together by a third of the way in the film, maybe halfway, and it's just through line.
Yeah.
It works well. Subplots are good in movies, but not too many subplots, especially in shorter films. It's tough to make work well.
Yeah, I think that they do a pretty. I remember really not liking Tommy in this, and I think they do a better job, especially talking about it. They do a much better job with him than I've ever given them credit for.
Yeah. I think going through these rewatches have really helped me understand these are just movies doing what they can with the time they have, with the script they have, and there's nothing offensive about them. They're just either good or they're just not. Like, it's never offensively bad, really, and it's never really aggressively masterful most of the time.
Most of the time.
Yes.
We'll get to that. But yeah, I really like him. I really like Kara a lot. She's not, the most densely written character, but her setup and her plight with her, father and with her son, I think she's instantly very sympathetic, and instantly you can really get on her side. The scene with her dad at the breakfast table is a little bit
it's very
it's very theatrical.
Yeah.
It's a very theatrical scene. But I mean, again, this is why, like, when we get to like the original series, John Strode is definitely or not John. Is his name John? Whatever. The dad is definitely the worst fucking character in the series.
Yeah.
I hate him. There's no redeeming qualities to him. He's just bad. Also, he takes like 3 whacks with an axe to take down this tiny little fucking steak. So he's a little bitch too. It's pretty cool. But yeah, I mean, I think rambling a little bit, but I think everyone's really good in this. I think Danny, I don't want to call him like a weakest link. He doesn't really get much to do. He's just kind of in the scenes. He's just kind of being sought after by the Man in Black, and he's hearing voices. He does more in this than he does in the theatrical cut, so he has a little bit more to do. But his aspect of the plot was a lot more clear to me this time around watching it.
Yeah,
it's a lot less confusing, and that rolls right into the cult stuff, which I think is a lot more coherent than I remembered it being.
I think as we're talking about and reflecting on this film more, this is really less of a review on Halloween 6 and more like a re-evaluation on this film with the producer's cut. Because, like, we're not going to go through this in this film pretty much about, like, oh, this is this what happens here and here. It's more about, like, this film is really talked about as being, like,
Garbage.
the dog shit of the Halloween franchise.
Yeah.
And if you really take your time to, like, disassociate the things that could be annoying or bad, you can really soak in a lot more enjoyment and atmosphere from this film, because the atmosphere is just really good in it. You really feel like it's the one Halloween film since the first one that really captures that attitude the best.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, I there's nothing really unbearable until you get to, like, I mean, I think Michael Myers in this movie is pretty fucking bad. He's just a stupid bodyguard who just says, hey, take care of him. He goes, okay, boss. And he just fucking marches over and takes care of that person. And he services nothing in the story except for to be, like, all this exposition about his life and what he did or how he became this. But also, because he doesn't talk, it services nothing to do with him as a character. He is literally a plot device in this movie. So when it ends and he survives, it's like if they're gonna follow this film, what would matter? Like, why would we follow Michael now? He's got no real motivation. He's just walking around.
I mean, he still has motivation because Steven's still alive. He's gonna hunt down Steven to kill Steven. That's enough.
I guess, but there's no real. They put so much prominence on, like, the doctor character, who's the man in black, and like him orchestrating all this. It would just fall in line with, if you had to do another one, it'd have to be another Man in Black type character to talk about this stuff, or we go back to the old formula where Michael says nothing, but now we know why he does this, and it'd have to be a short movie.
Well, the whole part of the ending is that the new Man in Black would be Loomis.
Yeah, which he's dead as soon as this film is done fucking pretty much filming.
Yeah, so and they weren't going to recast him.
No.
So, but just taking Pleasance's death out of the equation, I do find the idea of Loomis being at both times supposed to be the protector or whatever of Michael, as well as being his Van Helsing. I think that'd be interesting. Actually, be really interesting. But I don't think Michael's that bad in this. I think that he's pretty Michael-y. I would say that the cult stuff, depending upon, it depends upon your mileage for the cult stuff. I don't think that he's so much a bodyguard as he is a willing participant in a lot of the stuff that's going on, and he's still there. They're just reinforcing his drive to kill his family, but he's still going out and killing people of his own volition too. Like, he doesn't have to kill. He doesn't have to kill a mom. He doesn't have to kill a dad. He doesn't have to kill Barry Sims. He doesn't have to kill a lot of these people. I would say that he's probably he's not as boring and he's always kind of been, I don't want to say a plot device, but he's never, the motivation has always been killing.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't change anything of the fact that he's always killed because he wanted to.
Yeah.
It's just with the runes and stuff, it's like, well, this is why he, with the kills, it benefits this, and this is how it all adds up together. I just think with the Man in Black character, with him in 5 not doing much except breaking him out, it doesn't take away Michael's agency as much. With us understanding why is he doing this, what's going on, and us not getting an answer because he's a mute. He's not going to tell us what his answer is. Yeah. And, like, it leaves us as an audience just wondering, like, this mystery character. Like, it's like Boba Fett. When you learn what the mystery is, it's never going to be as good. So. Except
for it is as good now.
Yeah, I like Boba Fett now. I really do. He's not just a character design, but still, the idea of what Boba Fett could have been is always going to be cooler than what is given. Always. Yeah. The idea of what you think it could be is going to be cooler because when someone tells you, it's always going to be like, why is some crazy shit in my head, but okay.
I think the sad thing about the Man in Black though is that the writers really didn't support each other because they integrated this character in 5. They just like stuffed him in there, and they're like, well, the next guy will figure it out, and it's just like
Yeah.
this person has to scramble to give an answer now.
Oh
And
yeah.
I think that the answer they give
The best they could have done.
is good enough.
Yeah.
It works for me. I think that Michael is solid in this. I don't think he's that. I think he's pretty freaking good. I will say this now because we were talking about it in 5, or maybe it was in 4. I don't like the mask anymore as much.
I figured you weren't. I think the mold is good.
Sometimes in some scenes it looks cool.
I just can't get over the short hair where it kind of sticks up. He looks
not
like
even
he's going to a fucking punk rave. It's just funny to me.
Not even just the hair though. Like sometimes in certain lighting, that mask just does not look great. As good as it should. And
Yeah.
like even like at the end when he grabs Tommy in like that stark white light of the sanitarium, it looks weird to me.
I mean,
It looks off.
all those Michael Myers masks are gonna look pretty bad if you light it too well.
Yeah.
I think the only one that really does look good under a strong light really might be the Rob Zombie mask. I think it's really...
I think the original looks really good under because he's walking around in sunlight at the beginning of the movie in it, and I mean it's obviously at a distance,
That's
but
the thing, like the Rob Zombie mask I'm saying because we get up close shots of it with a strong light on top of it.
yeah.
But in the original it's always at a distance, so maybe it can't look good up close, but we'll never know, which is why that film works.
Yeah.
But the way they filmed the Rob Zombie one, like you get up closes of him all the time, very well lit, and I never say that mask looks bad. I don't like the movie, but the mask always looks good on screen.
The mask in Rob Zombie's Halloween, the first Rob Zombie Halloween, is awesome.
Yes.
It's actually legitimately really good. But yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say like this is a bad mask or
No.
at all. Like I wouldn't say like,
It looks
but
good in H2O.
it's definitely that's the thing. That's the interesting thing because when I was watching H2O right after watching Halloween 6, I was like, that's the same exact mask. Why does it look better here? It's because of the lighting.
Cinematography is just better.
The cinematography.
H2O.
Some
Things are
of
so
it
much
is.
better lit.
Some of it is. I have a couple of issues, but the couple of scenes, like you'll see, I mean, it's really distracting in that movie, but we'll get to that. But like when it switches scene to scene, but when he's wearing the part 6 mask, I'm like, well, it looks better in this.
Yeah.
Like he's wearing it through the entire opening. And
The opening's very dark.
Yeah,
That was like the small bits of light really help accentuate the features of the mask.
Yeah, it looks really good in that. And there's also different frames, different size head and stuff. I think that maybe this didn't fit Wilbur as well as it should have. That's another thing too, because as much as I don't think Michael Myers as a character in this movie is bad, I'm starting to not be very wild about George Wilbur's Michael Myers.
I don't like the portrayal very much.
His walk is odd to me. It's really odd. There are certain moments where he's really good. Like at the beginning when he puts the nurse's head on the spike. Like that's really good.
We'll talk about it in the next one, but like H2O, his walk is bad.
He's better in this than he's in H2O. We'll definitely get to that.
You think Michael Myers is better in this than in H2O?
Physically, I think that he is more physically imposing, as well as I think that some of his mannerisms are stronger.
I don't know if I totally agree, but I can definitely say it's debatable.
Yeah, I mean, no slight on Chris Durand. I mean, I even though I didn't even go visit him at the I didn't go see him at the con, but mostly that's because I didn't bring my H2O Blu-ray, so I wasn't gonna.
I think 6 to H2O is always going to be a good comparison because this is the end of the original series as it was going and the start of
a separate
new timeline, which usually will always lend to like, hey, versus the end versus this new beginning, what's the comparisons? And I think I'll always like the original timeline the best, just because I really love Jamie Lloyd's character. The ending of this one, it's tough. I don't think
like the ending.
The ending of 6.
I actually have come around on it. I used to really not like it. I wouldn't say like I love it. I wouldn't say that it's something that, it's my favorite ending in the series or something, but the runes, the stuff with like the runes where it stops Michael Myers, as I watched the movie dealing with all the cult stuff, taking all that stuff in, and Tommy being the, expert in
Knowledgeable. Yeah.
in it, I've come to like it more, especially because of how he
It
escapes.
just narratively makes sense too. Like it just like,
Yeah.
regardless of how much you like say like, oh, it's stupid that the fucking rocks stop him. It's not like it's not explained. It's not like it just happens out
Yeah.
of nowhere. It's well built throughout the film.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not how you'd like it to go, but it makes sense.
Yeah, I
Like you
agree.
said, he breaks out, so it really doesn't matter.
He escapes in the end. He,
To
trades
me,
places with Win.
the biggest disservice really is just Jimmy Lewitt's character.
Don't.
Like,
Yeah, I'm really not a fan
if
of
she
that stuff.
wasn't in the movie, like if she, after she broke out and she dropped the baby off and it's the last we saw of her, I would genuinely probably say 6 ends on a high note. But
Yeah.
like what happens to her almost ruins the movie for me personally. It's such a
Both
harsh bias too, because
in
she's my
both
favorite
cuts.
Halloween character in general.
Yeah, in both cuts, she's done dirty.
Yeah, she
So
dies.
either way, she's done
Disservice.
dirty. Yeah,
Like
she doesn't
characters
die.
can die and it could work. Like
Yeah,
I have no
I'm fine.
problem with having a character I love die and have it mean something, but it doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, I don't care about Jamie dying. Like that
At
doesn't.
least in the producer's cut, the script respects her in ways. Like these characters care about her. She's not just another character on paper.
Loomis cares.
Loomis cares. You know,
he
the
blames
Strode
himself.
family, when they know that she's alive, they're upset. They want to go see her. Like these things make it feel like, hey, people care about Jamie. It just the movie feels like it doesn't care sometimes, and it's just like, okay, well, fuck you guys.
That's kind of the thing. It's just like she gets so unceremoniously killed in this movie. Like they make a big show of how she gets stabbed, and you think she's dead, and then she's not dead. So you're like, oh my god, wow, it's so cool, Jamie lived. And then they just shoot her in the fucking forehead.
If you cut out that scene or cut out Jamie's death, I'd be fine with it. Like I would like the movie better if she was just in a coma for the rest of it.
Like I get, because like he's after Steven,
Yes.
the baby. If Michael never knows she's alive, if no one knows, obviously the reason why they know she's alive is because Wynn's the Man in Black.
Yes.
But if they just leave her alone, this movie, to me,
It is a
feels,
plot hole. If
it
they
feels
left
like
her
a
alone.
movie they wouldn't have had to read. Well, I mean, the reception of this movie was enough reason why they reset the timeline. But if they kept Jamie around, they would have had an avenue to continue.
Yes.
But killing her off was a big mistake. And if you're gonna kill Jamie, a character that a lot of Halloween fans enjoy and love and want to see done with respect, and you've already disrespected her by fucking with the actress
oh, yeah.
and doing like she emancipated herself to be in this movie, and then you just fucked her over. That's already bad enough, but you kill the character so just like it's borderline. No, it's insulting. It's actually insulting to the character.
Oh, it
to
is
kill her
insulting, 100%.
like that. So that is one of the most frustrating aspects about the movie, because it's like I enjoy the movie. I like a lot of the stuff that it brings to the table. But what is it with this franchise and having in a row 2 characters that are very much loved by the fan base and just fucking them over? Like Rachel and Jamie, both of them. Absolutely railroaded. It's ridiculous. It's really upsetting. And like I kind of get why people like they really want
I will say
Jamie to be
Rachel's
back.
is worse, for sure. Like, on paper, she's definitely, like... I hate Jamie's because, like... she's my favorite character. And, like, it sucks to see her go, but... she fights to give her child a good life. She does everything she can. You could say the fact that, like, Steven gets picked up, she did what she could. Like, it's a way of her saying,
Yeah.
like, I'm gonna give my baby a life that I want.
I can't have.
That I can't give them because my life
I'm
is
gonna
over.
die. Yeah.
So she gets a bit of a shining moment. The way she dies is fucking stupid and it's dumb and it makes it feel like it's pointless.
Mhm.
But Rachel's is just, to me, it's always going to be worse because you are taking a character that the entirety of 4 is to say she'll do anything for her sister. She's a strong woman that is not going to be doing dumb shit for no reason. She's always been.
You won't
competent.
abandon her.
And, yeah, she doesn't need a man to tell her what to fucking do. And then the entire 5th movie, she's just.
I'm leaving. Goodbye.
At. She's just
and
being
then dead.
sexualized. Every scene you see her in, besides her introduction, she's fucking naked, and then she's dead.
Or close enough to naked.
Yeah, it's like it defeats the entire visual story that's given to you in 4.
Yeah.
To me, it's this director saying that, like, I don't care how strong she is, she's still a fucking woman. That's what it comes across as.
Yeah.
And that's why I always think Rachel is done way dirtier. Am I saying I like either of them? Fuck no. But to hers, it is really like, it's misogynistic, which to me just kind of makes it much worse.
Yeah, it's just irritating.
Yes.
Because they actually take time in the 4th movie to make kind of the opposite of that.
Yeah, she is. And that's why it's tough. Like, I think 6 is a much better movie than I remember.
It's much better than 5, in my opinion.
I like a lot of things in 5 more. I don't think it's a good movie, but it's not as bad as I remember it being. But no matter how much of these things I like, those 2 things are always going to make them, to me, just not good movies. As a bias thing. Like, I can say 6 is a much better movie, and I think it has a much better story. The way it disservices Jamie is always going to say to me, I'm never going to put this back on again, though. I'm never going to want to watch it again anytime soon because it just fucking upsets me. And with Rachel, I mean, there's so much wrong with what happens to her. It's like, I don't care how many times I watched 5 as a kid. That shit is still fucked up.
Yeah, I agree. The way that they treat Jamie doesn't tank the movie for me. The way that
it doesn't
kind of does
tank
for you.
It's tough for me to watch. Like, it's tough for me to be like, this is my favorite character.
Because, like, I like Kara and...
She's great. I think she's great.
I genuinely, like, we kind of glossed over Kara a little bit, but just the change for a final girl to have, not just, she's not a teenager, she's in college, and she's a single mom. Yeah, that's completely different from any final girl we had probably ever had at that point.
There's no real actual romance between her and Tommy Doyle.
There's zero. There's nothing. They're just the co-leads of the movie. Yeah. There's really nothing. She's the whole thing at the beginning with him, with the camera looking through the window. But I think it's very easy to say he's looking at the house, watching the house. He's not watching her. I don't think so much that he's being a peeping Tom as much as he is traumatized by Michael Myers. He lives across the street from the Myers house. And
I definitely think he is interested in her.
I'm sure there's a little bit of that.
But it's not a focus of the movie.
Yeah, I don't think that he's actually actively
stalking her.
Yeah, I think it's more so that
coincidental, where he's like, I don't care if you're getting dressed. I'm wondering if Michael's in there, which is way funnier.
I think that he's actually more so scanning the house, making sure nothing's wrong, and he happens to scan up and see her.
It is way funny to think of you got a nice ass and all, but where's Michael?
Yeah, I don't. Actually, that kind of reminds me that statement kind of reminds me that it's fucked up the way that Marianne Hagen was treated in this movie. Really? Because behind the scenes, I can't remember who it was. It might have been one of the Weinsteins. It might have been.
Oh fuck!
Not like
that.
Not like that. Not like that. Not good, but not like that. It might have been them, or it might have been one of the other producers in the movie. I can't remember who it was. They were talking about it on either the Blu-ray or in the book I was reading. They were telling her that she's too skinny.
She is really skinny in the movie. But...
I know, but they were shaming her directly, being very cruel about it.
I guess to me, it's just I'm just glad they didn't say she's too fat, which would be much worse to an actress.
I feel like either way though, that's bad.
It's definitely bad. I mean,
it's
either
gross.
way can create eating disorders for anybody with no matter what you say to them, which is tough.
And it's just I don't want to be too crass, but Marianne Hagen is a beautiful woman.
I guess
she's fine.
I'm just picturing how she looks in the movie, and if someone said to her you're not skinny enough, that idea to my head would be like, okay, she'll kill herself. Like
maybe I'm
that would be
misremembering.
detrimental.
Maybe I'm misremembering it, but either way, it was a body shaming kind of thing.
Oh, 100%. I'm
It
not
was
saying
messed
it's
up.
okay or
Like
anything.
I think she almost didn't get the role because of it.
Yeah,
Like
I that's bad.
I mean that's Hollywood, and that's not an excuse. That's not that unusual, but it's still that's
Yeah,
fucked. It's
I
really
mean,
fucked. Um, and the worst
I'm
part, like, it's like she's really good in this.
I'm not gonna go on a tirade about how I hate misogyny in Halloween 5 and then just say like, yeah, calling people skinny is cool or anything. I don't think it's okay. I mean, when you're talking about a film, you have to understand like certain people want a certain image they have for a person. If the
Yeah.
body doesn't fit that, it's not body shaming when they say, "Hey, I have an idea of what I want and you don't fit that." It is what it is sometimes but at the same time,
It's also
that's
it's also
their body
the
type, man. Like
it's
sometimes they
also
can't fix that.
It's also the manner in which you do it, though.
A
Too.
100%.
And from what I read and heard about it, it was very, very cruel.
I'm sure it's a lot more visceral with how it's written on the page. Because you telling it to me is never going to be as pungent as like me reading it.
Yeah, like they actually quoted whatever it was. I can't remember what it was, what they said, but it was nasty and it was really gross. And again, it's more upsetting just because of how good she is in this movie.
Yeah.
Like, she's legitimately great in this, and I haven't seen Marianne Hagen in anything else, and that sucks because she's really, really good here. And her relationship with her son is great. I like how she's very, very at the same time she is, you know, motherly and caring, and she's very strong.
Yeah.
I really, really, really like her a lot, and you know, she's just a really like interesting type of final girl because we don't get, you know, single mom college students in these very much. You know, I wouldn't say like she's you know on this level of character, but like it kind of reminds me of kind of the earth shattering difference of like the main character from Black Christmas, where it's just like she's a college student and she's pregnant, and you know you're dealing with that issue while you're watching the movie. So it's just different. I mean, obviously that's like before the slasher boom, so she wasn't even part of the template.
Yeah.
But it is cool to see a different take on a final girl finally. You know, this is 95.
And it's not saying there's anything wrong with the basic template.
No.
Basic
No.
template is fine, but when you
I
have a
love
switch
Rachel.
up in formula over 40 films, it's nice to be like, hey, I haven't digested this as much.
It gives this movie a certain character-related identity that none of the rest of them have.
Yeah, it's easy to separate and appreciate this standalone fact about it versus the other ones.
Yeah, because like Lori is a single mother in H2O, but she's a 40-year-old.
Yeah, she's
like 40-year-old woman.
Yeah, she's like,
and she's running a prep school. Like she's not well adjusted. I wouldn't say she's well adjusted, but she's
you know, she's financially well adjusted. Yes.
Yeah, like it's very different than a 20-something-year-old person having to move back in with their abusive
and go to college
father and go to college with a son. So it is definitely it is cool to see them take a different look at final girls in this movie.
It's something I wish was more evaluated with 90s movies, is just the realistic, like the dark atmosphere of like how real the world could be, but also do it in a way that can kind of be enlightening or like hopeful. Like she's put as a character that's going through dark shit, but she never gives up, which is nice.
Yeah, she has her own issues, and this is just compounding on top of them.
I feel like that has to come down to it really being a pre-Scream like 90s horror film, and Scream did just change the template with being like, hey, either we're gonna be metatextual or we're gonna talk about just how dark some of this shit really is. And it's like, hey, the thing about dark, it has to have a balance with light. You can't just only have bad things. That's why a lot of the shit that's like movies post Iraq war are just so dark and dreary. There's no uplifting atmosphere to it. Some films it works for. You need a dark and tough tone, but like people forget like there's a balance with everything. And when you lose that balance, you're losing enjoyment. And at the end of the day, I'm watching a movie. I'm not watching a fucking documentary. And if this movie's got no enjoyment to it or there's no uplifting atmosphere, why am I getting through it? Like look at a film like the Pianist with Adrian Brody. Like
I still haven't seen that.
well, just like the template of it is like his life is fucking terrible, but he always is hopeful. Like if
But
he
he always
wasn't
has his piano.
if he wasn't hopeful, the movie would be suck. It would be suck. That's really good of me. I'm clever, but it would be suck. Okay, the movie would be very suck.
It would be pure suck, bro.
Yeah, you need to have a balance to it, and a lot of films in the '90s and early 2000s, especially early 2000s, they just fucking drop the ball.
It's kind of funny watching it kind of like circle back to like pure like darkness in movies, going back to movies like we always talk about how fun the 80s is.
80s is fucked.
Yeah, 80s is fucked, but
80s is a fucking roller coaster, though. If I said I'm gonna watch a film from the 80s, you don't know what roller coaster you're going on. That's what I love about it.
It could be the happy fun screaming kind of
It could
of
be
a roller
Monster
coaster.
Squad, or it could
Pure
be Evil
depression.
Dead. You know, like
Yeah, but I'm thinking about like thinking back to I watched Come and See for the first time this year, and just how like there's not a single bit of light in that movie.
yeah.
Everything about it is just like this is descent into pure hellscape.
Well, same with Texas Chainsaw,
Yeah,
and like that works for films, and same with Black Christmas. Like films should be dark, but if every film coming out at this time period, or a large percentage of them, are just trying to do that because of a real life event, because all films are based on political landscape. I'm sorry. The political landscape going on at the time is going to set up and say, what are we going to address in this film?
yeah.
And that's kind of the biggest problem with 2000s films in general, is that it's so fucking dark and dreary because we didn't know how to respond to 9/11.
I think if people think that movies are not, if people think that art is not informed by politics, they're actually stupid.
Yeah.
So it's one of those crucial things, and especially in the 2000s. Like we've gotten to a point, like we during like the 80s, like the 70s, like we'd have movies about World War II, where it would be fuck the Nazis, kill them all, whatever, like it'd be all about, punching Nazis is cool.
Yeah.
But once we got into the
it's
2000s,
still pretty cool.
It's still fucking lit, dude.
Yeah.
But like in the 2000s, it's like in the kind of conflict that we were in,
Baseless aggression against a generalized people.
it's such a, I don't want to say it's a great situation, because it's not great. That's a bad situation no matter how you take it. But like the way that we interpret it in art,
You could say gray though, because there's no such thing as a clear-cut answer.
yes,
Like,
but it's just weird to talk about a situation like that and saying that like there's any form of good in that.
No.
But
America's response to 9/11 has systematically destroyed what any Western audience could see as Middle Eastern people as just being humans. And since then, we still have a large, rampant racism in the fucking country because of it. And maybe I'm a lot more like vocal and angry about it because like I have family who is Muslim, and like I've seen people treated differently because of it.
Yeah.
But like I don't know, like they're just fucking people at the end of the day. And like just because of one act by a terrorist group, which, hey, surprise, surprise, terrorism is everywhere. Like we talk all the time, American Revolution, that's just terrorism. Like
it's literally terrorism.
It's just terrorism in like, is it cool terrorism? Hell yeah.
Yeah,
like,
America was built on terrorism.
It's terrorism, man.
So.
It is. Like it doesn't matter how good or how necessary it is, it's still terrorism.
I just gotta love how we went from Halloween 6 to talking about terrorism.
But I think
what
the
a
90s,
podcast, bro.
The 90s shapes up a lot of like, how do I want to say it? Like, Nirvana is a band that is prominent in its culture, not because of how good the music is, I don't want to sound like an asshole, but because of how poignant the messages are for its time period. As much as the 80s is about like fucking pop or like hair metal saying like, yeah, let's get our dicks sucked.
Let's have a good time. Let's go party.
The 90s is literally about like, hey man, my cousin died of heroin yesterday. Yeah. And you're like, hey, I was kind of busy getting my dick sucked, and now someone's talking about their heroin overdose, so maybe I'm not having a good time.
Yeah.
And then the 90s is about being realistic about all this shit that's happening, children being addicted to drugs, a lot more rap culture being predominant about how tough life is, and it's not just fucking fun.
I guess that kind of relates back to just like the 90s, even with like something like Scream, self-referential stuff. The 90s had a lot of self-reflection
Yes, I think
in its
reflection
art.
is the best way to talk about 90s in general.
And like dealing with something like a single mother, that does take a degree of self-reflection on the state of the world at that time, and how we viewed being a single parent in the 90s, especially a young single parent who has to deal with a very, very cruel parent basically saying that you and your son are a mistake.
Yes, I would say the 80s is the most artistically creative decade for films. It's the most like wide a range of like stylistic choices, and what you could get is very different depending on what director, what year it even is. But the 90s is the most it's the broadest horizon for realism, sure, but also like the introspectiveness. Like whatever you're trying to see or reflect on, the 90s is trying to showcase in its films.
Yeah.
Early 90s, even later 90s, you're just trying to get in the mental state of your main characters most of the time. Look at shit like Requiem for a Dream. Like even like Scream, like your entire focus is always going to be on Neve Campbell's character, about what she's going through, how
Her
she
plight,
feels,
her mental state,
what's happening. It's not just the basis like I want to run from this killer. It's like my life is in shambles because of A, B, and now fucking C happened, and I'm not done with dealing with A and B yet.
Yeah,
and that's why that movie works.
Looking at the viewpoint of a character that has gone through a lot of trauma in a short period of time, and is continuing to go through trauma as it's going on and on and on through the entire series. It's like she doesn't get to acclimate to the trauma that she's endured, and that's real. So that happens to a lot of people. Sometimes the train just doesn't stop, guys.
Yeah.
And I find that really interesting, especially in a decade where, even just this year we were talking about how like the 90s, fucking like it's just like we're in a self-referential bullshit. But like there's a lot of stuff in the 90s that under the surface that's cooking, that's very artistically smart and emotionally driven, that I think needs to be talked about more. And even like it's not like this is like the most incredible film ever made, but this has stuff on its mind that I think that a lot of the movies in the genre should tackle more.
Yeah.
And discuss more.
I would also say this has a lot more on its mind than you would previously think on first watch.
Yeah, man. Let me tell you what, I've seen this movie 3 times. The producer's cut 3 times. This watch was kind of weird because it's like I'm like I know this movie. I've seen it a couple times. I don't have anything else to glean from this. I'm just gonna see if I enjoy it a little bit more this time around. But I was not thinking about the kind of stuff that I would actually think about while watching this movie.
Yeah.
Is it the greatest one in the series? No, it's not. But I would say that overall, this is one that has jumped up my ranking a little bit.
I don't think it moved much from mine, but I did appreciate it more.
I had 5 above it before.
I moved
6 over 5.
I think as a film, 6 is better. I just enjoy.
I also moved 4 up to. I moved 4 up to 2.
4 is my second favorite. My list has changed as of current watches, but it's not going to be assumed as to what it was before. I'll say that much.
I think I have this still under Kills, but
this is definitely under Kills for me.
Yeah, I think I don't think it's that far under Kills, but it's under Kills.
I think Kills is the middle of the road for me.
Well, yeah, I think because how many?
I think I have Halloween 2 above Kills.
I think I do. This most recent watch for 2 was not kind to it.
It's just fun.
I think it's more so. It might also be more so because I watched it twice in a row, so everything kind of like is very obvious to me because I just watched it and now I'm rewatching it. So I'm curious. I have Kills above H2O and 2. I didn't adjust H2O after watching H2O though. I haven't touched my list since after watching 6.
You can like whatever you like, man.
H2O is above Kills. I just haven't moved it yet.
Yeah.
I just haven't moved it yet because I just didn't touch Letterboxd.
I'll go over my feelings on H2O when we get to it, but
yeah.
I think to finish off this talk about for 6.
Oh, I didn't even talk about like one of the things I crucially wanted to talk about, which was the score.
Too late.
No, I'm talking about it. It's my show too.
It's okay, man. You're editing this one. Man. Go for
Exactly. This might be my favorite score in the series.
it. It's good.
I really fucking love this score, especially
I'm not even trying to be short because it's been a while. I'm just saying like it's good. I can't name a score in many of them that I think are bad. I think
there's stuff in 5. There's stuff in 5 score that I don't like, but
yeah, but there's nothing like
it's fine.
aggressively bad. I think it's fine or it's okay.
We'll get to H2O's score, but I'm not wild about it.
It's so inconsequential to me a lot of the time. I think it works when it needs to work.
It doesn't. We'll talk about it in the next one.
Yeah.
But I think that this is legitimately like, because it's so different from the theatrical cut score. Like it's really different.
Yeah.
It's more traditional Halloween, but it also has the culty kind of spooky atmosphere to it that I just think is fantastic. It's between this and the 2 new ones for my favorite Halloween scores, just because of how like varied and diverse the kind of sounds that we get in the new ones are. This one, it is everything I want in Halloween, plus some really cool texture work from the spooky, the fucking like choral voices in the background and stuff in the opening. Great stuff. I also want to talk about like that. This is the final performance from Donald Pleasance.
Which is a great performance.
Yeah, I think it's something that we definitely should talk about, just because this movie's dedicated to him, and we've been talking about this whole time how much we love Loomis, and this isn't my favorite Loomis performance, but it is really good, and I love how like old he sounds, and giving him the weathered
down.
Yeah, and I also I really appreciate that at the beginning of this movie he's adjusted.
Yeah, that he's just like he's fucking dead. Fine. I don't care anymore. Let's have some wine. Like, hey, Michael's not dead. You're like, I can't appreciate this wine anymore.
Well, it makes it even sadder because it's like he's moved on. He's calmed down. He's he's writing his book, living out his days, man. And Wynn comes in, brings him back to Smith's Grove, and they find out, oh, Jamie has been found. She's not dead, but she's been stabbed. And oh, by the way, Michael's still around, and he's just like, God damn it. And he's like, you feel so bad for him because he's like, he finally got out, man. He finally got out.
That's the thing. Like, I feel like I would genuinely hate Jamie's portrayal as much as Rachel's if it wasn't for Loomis selling every scene he talks about Jamie, because it feels so real when he does the dialogue saying like, I failed you. You don't feel like he's just saying like, fuck, we lost another one. Yeah. He really feels like he let someone down that he cared about.
It does kind of feel really weird when you watch this immediately after 5 because of the way that
I think it makes more sense because of watching it after 5.
You think so? Because to me, in 5, he feels more like he's very callous. Not callous.
That's why. That's why, like, he says, like, I failed you again. Like, to me, when he's saying, I failed you again, it's not like...
Like he failed her at the end of 5 and at the end of...
Yeah, because at 5, he realizes he probably should have protected her. She got abducted. He thought she died in the fire because he was being inept. He didn't care about her. He only cared about Michael. And as years have gone on, he's had to deal with that. For 6 years, he's like, I let this little girl down. Michael's finally dead, but at what cost? I have to live my own life. Then if you find out, not only is Michael alive, but so is Jamie. I have a second chance to fix things, and he fucked it up again. And he feels like he's really like, there's no point in this anymore.
And I think that's
why...
I
love the way he sells these scenes.
I think that's also why the thing with Wynn, like the reveal for Wynn, like I knew it was Wynn.
Yeah, so the reason obviously he's in any scene for more than 5 minutes.
Yeah, but taking that out of the equation, I've seen the Curse of Michael Myers theatrical repeatedly, so I know it's him.
Yeah.
If I had never seen because there's scenes that are in this involving Jamie and involving Loomis and Wynn that weren't in the theatrical version. If I had never seen the theatrical version and I didn't know that Wynn was the Man in Black, the revelation would have been a gut punch. Because if you really think about it, it's not just like, oh, well, it's Wynn, so he's going to be probably the bad guy. But ostensibly, Loomis brought Wynn in on this thing to help him. And by bringing Wynn in, he sealed Jamie's fate.
Yes.
He, by proxy, got her killed.
And like the way it's set up too, with even like when Jamie does call up, the first thing she says like I need you, Dr. Loomis. Like it's like reaching out for like a helping hand of someone she trusts.
it's like even after it's kind of like maybe I'm
It's
inserting a little.
heartbreaking. Like talking
I'm
about it is so much more heartbreaking.
maybe I'm inserting a little bit into this more than maybe the writers and director really try to convey. But when she's reaching out to Loomis and Loomis is hearing it, it's like he's saying like even after everything I've done to you, you still want me to help you,
Yeah,
and that's like I need to save her, and then
yeah,
he fails, and that whole like I failed you, Jamie thing is even more
poignant. Yeah,
powerful. I take it back.
it's
It's really
really
fucking
good.
good. It's really well
It's
executed.
the only reason I really say like Rachel's is more a disservice because Donald Pleasance's performance just makes it feel like Jamie's death has more matter to it.
Yeah.
Do I think the script writers and directors made it like this? No, I just think Donald Pleasance's performance just made it have a lot more emotion to it and made me feel a lot more. I don't know if it's intentional, but it doesn't matter. That's how I feel at the end of the film. And that's what I'm going on.
Yeah, it has a really strong emotional through line for
Yeah.
the character. And I really like I like that kind of confronts the fact that he was so singularly focused on getting Michael and not thinking about the human being
Yeah.
that he was using to finally end the evil and failing miserably. And that's why kind of like at the end he gets his kind of I wouldn't say comeuppance or recompense, but you know now he has to deal with Michael forever to his dying day.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's really it's dark, it's depressing, but it makes sense. You know, he is being literally tied to the person that he has intrinsically tied himself to for
Decades.
20 years almost. It is actually really smart. And you know, the more we talk about this, the more I like this movie. I wouldn't say that's going to go up any higher.
I think I
list,
might have to adjust it
but
based on.
I really appreciate this more. This movie a lot more than I did before. I remember really not liking this. I remember talking to you about it before we rewatched it, saying like I'm not really looking forward to watching 6. But after watching it, and especially after discussing it, I like this a lot more
Yeah.
than I did before.
I will say it might have to do with a lot more of us talking about how these things work, and then maybe
but at the same time though,
maybe
it's
on
like
film it doesn't translate as well, but the ideas are very strong. I'd say.
I think also at the same time, once when you're articulating things and putting things into word, you're when you're discussing things, you kind of think about things you didn't think about before.
Yeah.
And I think that that's not wrong. I don't think that any of that's. It's not like
No.
It's not like all of that we're assuming or anything. Like there's enough evidence to support what we're saying.
Yes.
I would say in the movie. So
I'd say we're inserting more love and appreciation than maybe this film is giving us, but I don't think that's wrong. As long as you're emotionally resonant with the film and it gives you enough reason to believe it, there's no reason to denounce it.
I don't think the jump is so severe that it feels like we're just kind of pulling things out of thin air or reaching. It's things that we definitely feel are there.
Yes.
And I think that's valid enough.
What did you get for a final score on Halloween 6?
7.5.
I'd give it 7.
We're usually within a half
Yeah.
point of each other.
I think that's going to change for the next film.
Maybe.
I think so.
Maybe.
Maybe you'll feel a little differently, but like
I mean, like, hey,
I'm pretty high on H2O on rewatch.
When we went into this, I felt more like a 6.57. So
I also felt like a
Discussing it-
6.5 when I was talking. I was like, I'm gonna just have a few things to say, and then we rambled on. Like, no, this is I think better an idea.
we rambled on. We talked about some terrorism, the normal.
Well, I mean, when you compare a film to just the Islamophobia of the post-Iraq war, everything just sounds better.
Oh man, yeah, no, I would probably say I'd say 7.5. I think this is much better than the last time. Much better than the last time I watched this because I really didn't like it.
Yeah.
We didn't even talk about the whole like the Michael's the father thing, which used to tank the movie completely for me. But I've got reacclimated to it.
When you think about it, it doesn't really. That's to me like he's a bodyguard at the end. Like
if you remove
hey,
one
man,
line, it's gone.
Fuck your niece, and he's like, I don't. Whatever. Like I'm not real. Like he's not human at the end of the day. Like he's not having human emotions. He's being told what to do. Like
I just like I want to believe that it's artificial and not actually,
Oh, it's definitely not artificial.
I know it's not,
It's
but
definitely not.
I mean, I wish
the
it
worst
wasn't
part is he
artificial,
rapes her. Like that's
just like I just that is one of the things that really just irritates me about this movie. If you remove the line about it's your baby, Michael, isn't it, or whatever, I would be like, this is much better.
I mean, You know me, I hate rape in film. I fucking can't stand it.
At least
But
it's not shown.
It's not focused on either. It's just a throwaway line, so like, I'm not watching her rape Jamie or anything.
Yeah.
The thing is, he was probably gonna rape Kara, which is...
Yeah.
That was...
Well, at least...
I mean, it doesn't go anywhere very... It's done with fast, like, it doesn't happen, but...
Yeah. I don't know. I just kind of like... It's like, at least it's a... I don't even want to say, like, at least this, or like, she's an adult.
Yeah.
Which is not...
No, but
that's not a good thing, but like, he's
but
not only is Michael Myers incestual in this movie, but he's also...
Realistically...
a pedophile.
It's a lot easier to deal with someone... Like, rapists are always fucking evil.
Rape is always bad, no matter what.
How much are you going to be willing to say, I can get through this movie if someone rapes a child? Ever. Just ever.
Rapes a child and it's your niece.
Yeah, like, how are you going to do it?
That kind of stuff like that really gets on my nerves. I wish that's one of those things where it's like, did we need it to be like this? Like, there's nothing in this movie that says that it has to be his kid. So you just made it his kid. Like, if you just remove that line saying it's your kid, isn't it, Michael? It's fine.
That's why, like, contextually, like, as bad as it is, but, like...
It's such a throwaway insert.
When Michael kills off his family, like, this will be the final time. I'm just over here like, well, couldn't he just keep conceivably raping people and killing the babies, though, and making it part of his bloodline? Like, I'm not saying I want that in a movie, but, like, if Michael Myers is like, well, if I'm powered by killing family, I could keep killing my kids and stay powerful.
Well, I guess the point is that this is the youngest related person to him, and once that person is dead, it's over. So, like, he can't just keep on creating people after killing Steven. Once it's done, he's done. They do say that, so you can't keep doing that. But no matter what,
I would try.
It's just it's just such a weird addition to the movie that doesn't need to be there.
The thing is, like, all the script is based in nothing. It's all fabrication. You could write whatever you want. So, like, yeah, this is what they wrote for the script. And when scripts have realism, or like, hey, this is all based on this and it has to follow suit with that, I'm okay with saying, like, hey, I can't argue the logic, but it's a fictitious script that has no baseline in really anything. They can make it anything. It's just saying, like, you could have just not done it. You could have done something differently. And that's, like, the biggest problem. Like, if someone says, hey, well, in the script, point A gets you to point B, why does it matter? It's like, yeah, but you could also change that script and alter it to make it not have this thing. Like, it's not like, hey, I'm doing a law movie and I have to address all these laws in America. No. This is about some crazy fucking rapist, pedophile druid shit, where you could just change this shit because it's not based in any real sense of cult. Make this cult not have to rape your niece. Oh wow, the movie's better.
I mean, if you just all you have to do again is just remove that line.
Yes.
And it's nothing, which is kind of why it's like it used to be such a bigger issue for me, but because like they don't even care enough about it to make it like a huge part of the plot. They just throw it in there. So it's like whatever, just ignore it. But it's one of those things where it's just like you didn't have to do this. It's taking it a step further than it had to be, and it makes a movie that I'm enjoying and having a really good time watching really dirty.
The biggest problem with the plot line of like, hey, this is dealing with killing his family. You have to either do one of two things. Have Michael Myers rape another person, another female, or you have Jamie getting raped by another man. Either way, somebody has to get raped.
Yes.
And like, no matter what, you're kind of fucked with that story.
I think in the theatrical cut, I think they imply that it's Wynn. If I remember correctly.
That is so fucking bad.
I don't like that.
Yeah.
I could not get behind that, but I could stomach that more than Michael being the one.
The only way you could make
because he's already he's
all
a really bad guy.
like I don't know. So if we had to rewrite it, I know this is gonna go on longer, but like if I had to rewrite it, Jamie is kept as a prisoner to be possibly a last sacrifice as if the cult doesn't do things they want to do. Do it like you do it with fucking Teen Titans, where like a woman gets lost or stuck into a cult and then she offers herself up to be Michael's like love. So instead of him raping someone, she's willing to do it, and then it's his child. And Jamie says, I've been in fucking prison for all these years. I'm not gonna watch another child be murdered by Michael Myers, as I almost was all those years ago. You have her take this child that isn't hers. It just happens to be a child she's rescuing. And then the same plotline follows through. She was never raped, and he technically never rapes anybody. It's the same story. It's just not her actual baby. Does it actually change anything?
No.
I win.
Yeah, but I also you can just take it to be like, well, she had a boyfriend and they got pregnant and then they kidnapped her. You know,
But
or you
can't really do that because she's been in prison for fucking 6 years.
Well, at least in the theatrical cut, I don't think they really talk about that.
I'm just talking the Bruce's cut.
So,
like,
yeah,
what you have contextually, if you want to change nothing of the film, all you have to really do is just say Michael Myers had a willing female of the cult that said, "I will bear the seed of of the Myers."
Yeah.
If you do that, you change nothing in the plot. Jamie still has a through line narrative. It's just not a blood related child.
Yeah, I mean, I can get
nothing.
that.
It's the story still functions.
I just think like if it's somebody else or like, oh, maybe she's captive and she falls in like one of her captors falls in love with her and they have a baby or something. Syndrome. Yeah, but you know, like or something else, or maybe she's not in prison for fucking 6 years or something, and they kidnap her after she's pregnant or something. Like there's a bunch of different ways you can do it where you can remove the incestual nature of it and the rape aspect of it. There's a bunch of ways you could do it.
You have to alter a lot though to make her not encaptured for like 6 years or whatever. Like, yeah. I'm just saying, like, if we have to change like the bare minimum to make the story still function, because if she's not encaptured for like 6 years, I'm asking like, yo, what the fuck happened then? How did you just randomly capture her? Was she at a fucking Carvel and you scooped her up in a van? Like, what's going on?
As you do.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like, maybe she's captured for 6 years because they have this plan for Michael to have a child, and if it doesn't go through, Jamie's the last sacrifice. That keeps this story still consistent, no problems. If you want to do it that way. He has the baby with a willing female fucking cult servant. No rape. Totally cool. Jamie has the initiative to save this child. Runs away. He gets hunted down. Same things happen. No rape. No incest. No pedophilia. Sounds pretty fucking sweet.
I just the idea.
The only thing
of
is you can't kill Jamie. It would change it to be like, this is the last. What I would do anyways is just like the last Myers. You kill off one last Myers, but if it's a younger Myers or whatever, say the fucking ceremony's stronger, and as Jamie's gotten older, her death has become less meaningful. Some shit like that. You would have to rework a little bit of the plot, but I think it would work just as well.
The idea that Michael is having sexual relations at all is just bizarre to me. Like,
yeah,
whatever.
But
whatever.
He's just a servant. Like, he's just a fucking body at the end of the day.
I know. It's just one of those things where it's like, you don't think that, to me. I mean, getting a little bit too deep into it, but like, that is intrinsically a human thing, and I don't view Michael as human.
Yeah.
So like, him having sex with someone is just odd to me. It's human. It is to a degree, in a baseline sense, humanizing him on a physical degree, and it's weird. It's one of those things where it's just like, I'm not wild about that whole decision to begin with, but it doesn't ruin the movie. It used to ruin the movie for me, but as I've rewatched it, I've acclimated more to it, and I can kind of just deal with it now.
I think after talking about it, it hurt things a little bit more. I think us avoiding it has made this film sound better, but then I'm like, pedophile, incest, rape, 6.5.
It is one of those like little weird things that just doesn't need to be in the movie, that they just stuck in there for some reason. But yeah, that's all I have to say.
Regardless, it's either pedophile, incest, rape, or it's a pedophile rape. Either way, it's a lose-lose.
Yes.
Okay, but I think that's enough dealing with 6. It really ended on a poor note, but I think there's not much more I want to say anymore about the film.
Yeah, I can't really think of anything else I want to talk about.
I think that will lead us to H2O, or Halloween 20 years later. And we're starting off with a new timeline, or is it? There's a fun fact that I want to talk about from H2O that we'll get into, but there's a lot to really be discussed for this next film, and I'm excited to talk about it. So
I am as well.
tune in next time. We'll discuss another entry in the Halloween series, the first time they thought about bringing it back and bringing it back to basics, really. And tune in then. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.